Hi, my name is BB Posh. This is my first attempt at making a real video on YouTube while attempting to edit and use my voice. I've got a little script and a document here since I'm scared of freeballing the video. I know it technically makes it not a ramble or yet video since it's mainly of a script, but you just gotta trust me here. I've recorded myself reading the script and I've got a timer to help me out. And so what I've done is I've went into GCZ and recorded myself roaming and just playing the game to match the time frame in order to collect footage. I know it's not how you're supposed to do it, but I don't know any other ways to do it, so since I sort of have no footage, and I'd prefer if it wasn't a still image or a PNG as the video's footage, I've plastered on relevant images on the screen whenever my voiceover reads something in blue. The whole process took me like 10 hours in total. The decision to actually make this video was backed up by the fact that I've wanted to do this for quite a while now. However, I've previously been too scared to, so I'm just gonna try it. If I get no views, fine. If I get some views, that's awesome. This video structure is very messy. I'm not expecting much. And as for who inspired me to actually make this video, this person, and especially this person, this person, this person, and this person. The topic of the video mainly revolves around rambling about this game, as well as a bit of who I am as a gamer and why I play the game, or more specifically, Zenless Zone Zero. As for me, who I am, I'm a Chinese 15-year-old and I live in New Zealand. I play Zenless Zone Zero, Minecraft, Clash Royale, and Brawl Stars. Well, casually but rarely playing Honkai Star Rail, the Hollow Knights, Blox Fruits, and Roblox Jujutsu Infinite. My favorite games of all time is a tie between Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, but I'm unsure on which I enjoyed more. Additionally, I really used to like PvZ, the Undertale games, Pokemon, and Cookie Run Kingdom. As for ZDD, I'm a mid to light spender. I will buy the battle passes and the occasional special offer that MiHoYo puts out every so often. I don't really know where to put the main statement of the video, but I'm just gonna put it at the near the start of the rambling. I like the game, but I suggest that you don't play ZZZ. I would not ask any of my friends to play ZZZ, especially if they're not big on gaming in the first place. Despite this, I'll still give you reasons to play, especially if you're already anticipating yourself trying out the game yourself. In a nutshell, just play if you want, but in general, gaming is a bad thing to pick up in my opinion. There are much better things to do in life, like learning how to write. Writing is cool. Also, this video is mainly targeting those who don't play any gacha games, although in reality, this is probably showing up to people who already play ZZZ. To begin the ramble, what is ZZZ? What is in Zone Zero? It's just a gacha game made by a gacha company. I don't like to use the term hack and slash, even though it might actually be one, since it takes away from the fact that it's just a gacha game. And before going on, I'd like to state my authority over the game as a rambler. I started for the first time on the PC version in this patch, on this day, where these characters were available. I missed it on Nishan and Asher. I just hate that so much, bruh. And I pulled these characters, or what we call agents. I've done all the events, or permanent events, and side quests. At least the ones that give me general rewards. And so far I've cleared every single piece of in-game content put in place during my time playing the game. And I've had little to no problem getting all the gem rewards, except for my first ever Deadly Assault. More on in-game content later. Since my agents were simply not ready. So basically, after the third week of playing, I was comfortably getting all the rewards from the in-game. The difficulty of the in-game content, I have little to no comments about it. Simply because I have no idea what the direction the developers want to take the in-game. Currently, it's fine. It's not overwhelmingly difficult. The difficulty can be attributed to the fact that the game isn't very old. If you know what you're doing and you know what you're putting onto your account, you're going to obtain all the gem rewards just fine. Also, to put it out there, this game is on the easiest side of games I've played. I'm a dedicated player of ZZZ. In fact, most of my gaming worries nowadays just revolve around this game. Every decision and investment I have made in ZZZ has rarely been an impulse investment, and currently I only regret perhaps 10% of perhaps 10% of the decisions I have made in terms of character builds and pulling for characters. However, the things I regret were purely my fault, and the game itself is not to blame. Essentially, I was just building pity and I got these two characters by accident. I didn't really want to obtain them. Otherwise, I would only invest in characters I like, or I kind of like, but just so happen to be meta. Energy system, you know how it works. I've hardly let it overspill, and ever since July 1st, the day I've begun, which is how the batteries are intended to be used, they regenerate just enough to the point where you'll have enough to farm some items every day, while indirectly punishing you for not doing so, which adds to the game's FOMO factor. Basically, the game's batteries will regenerate slower if you hit the cap of 240, meaning it's more efficient to play every day. Leaning towards the characters themselves now, they're all cool, if not just fine, both in terms of character design and gameplay. MiHoYo wouldn't intentionally make a bad design. As you would expect, every character has a varying amount of lore surrounding them too, which they essentially use to make you want the character. There's pretty much no other way around that fact. Also, all the agents in the roster just so happen to be in the main story. That much should make sense. The story, just to be quick, it's fine. I don't really care for it. As for the lore of the game, like the hollows and stuff, it's also just fine. Just from like seeing discussions online, I'm assuming that Zenless Zero probably has one of the weaker storylines plus lore in terms of gacha games MiHoYo slash Hoyoverse has made. Now for the gameplay. Well, I find the gameplay really fun, but it's not the main reason I play Zenless Zero. Uh, as for why I do play Zenless Zero, I think it boils down to a mixture of liking the characters, actually finding the combat fun, and fear of missing out, or simply put FOMO. If it was purely for the combat, I would have hollowed out every single piece of content in the game by now, but I haven't. Circling back to the actual character designs and the roster, you'll notice that there are lots of girls and not many boys. You might even be a little shocked initially by certain characters' natural endowments, or perhaps the jiggle engine. But if you play the way I have, you'll eventually get over it. Just to put it out there, my favorite characters, both in terms of design and gameplay, are this woman and this woman and this guy. I find the first two ladies really attractive, and I find the robot guy really awesome looking. As for the gameplay, the pink haired lady does big bursts of damage simply using one or two moves. I think I'm actually using her in gameplay. The blonde girl basically dumps all of her moves at once, and the robot guy has the widest variety of moves to use in the game. MiHoYo has proven that they can make character gameplay super fun and interesting. Similarly, but also not so similarly, there are characters I like but absolutely hate the gameplay of. Their but their roles are different since their purpose is to support rather than deal the bulk of your damage. Those agents being this lady and this lady. The gameplay genuinely boils down to hitting a button and seeing how fast you can get them off the field. That just isn't fun at all. But it appears that MiHoYo is straying away from the style of gameplay, or lack of gameplay, for the most part. For the game's graphics, I think they're great. I'd like to say it's MiHoYo's most polished looking game so far, and the best looking game that I play overall. Like, yeah, I don't have much to say about the graphics aside from the fact that it's essentially spoiled me. I visited Honkai Star Rail in Genshin not long ago, and I can confirm that Xeno's Zone Zero has a whole lot more details put into the environment, effects, and characters, as well as the NPCs. I know that Genshin has older characters that objectively lack the quality the newer characters do within Genshin itself, which is an issue Xeno's Zone Zero currently does not have. Power creep in the game is fine. The game is still technically newer, so it hasn't had time to bare its fangs, so to speak. You can comfortably get all the gem rewards using all the quote unquote outdated characters. I know I have. Although the older agents I use are certainly still considered A tier, or what we call tier 1 agents, tier 0 being the S tier. And as for pulling new characters, they will always land in that tier 1 range. You physically can't go wrong with uh you physically can't go wrong if you gamble your gems to pull the newer characters. And as for the as the in-game content encourages you to do so anyway, not because the characters are inherently strong or what they are, but because the content will tailor to their niche, or rather what they are good at doing. In fact, my favorite character was released early November 2024, and you cannot argue that they fall below the tier 1 range as of December 2025. If a new character is meta defining upon release, they will stay in that tier zero point 0.5 range for a very long time. You can hardly ruin your account by pulling bad characters as a new player. But in short, characters age really well and remain meta relevant for a while too, provided they're meta relevant upon release. Pretty much every single problem you might have outside of combat and spending gems to gamble has a quality of life feature to back it up. I can't really provide any examples off the top of my head without using in-game terms, but you're just gonna have to trust me. The quality of life is really good. Unlike other games I've played, this is no wiki game. A wiki game would mean you had to go out of your way to discover fundamental mechanics. But Zenless Zero's tutorials are near perfect. If you're somehow not seeing any help or guide videos on YouTube or social media though, the game has more than enough help and documentation built into the system, where you can find optimal character builds, what and who to upgrade as well as who works with who works well with who, all while not being so obtrusive to the point where I'd call it hand-holding. Zenless Zero manages to balance not being hand-holdy and intuitively guiding the player. The game has a built-in menu that is essentially a plan or overview of what the agent wants. You can click on that thing that you need, and it'll redirect you to the source of the item, which is a baseline for all games, including gacha games, but it's good that Zenless has such a streamlined way of assisting the player. As for the story, you're basically going around the game's locations as it exposes you to all the playable characters and fightable enemies. You play as this guy or girl, and during your time in the story, you will meet all the agents. It can be quite interesting at sometimes, but I find myself not caring too much about it. I thought 2.0 was pretty cool, to be honest. Lots of people hated it. I found it cool. Oh, I think I talked about this briefly before, but I have this in here, so the game is not hard. A really reliable source told me that Genshin is generally easier than ZZZ, but Genshin is a very easy game. End quote. I feel the difficulty is hard to gauge in a gacha game like ZZZ, because it depends on if you're stupid enough to pull characters that you will perform poorly with. But generally, it's not that bad. The game's exploration is bad. Exploration is not the main focus of Zenless Zero. The exploration is sort of like a singular, albeit fairly large room, where you can find crates that give you gems, occasionally having to do these super simple puzzles. A game that actually focuses on exploration would be Tears of the Kingdom. It's just a really big room with even bigger rooms to explore. Those even bigger rooms have big rooms inside of them, which lead to more rooms. Each layer of rooms has their own puzzles, rewards, and challenges to complete, if that makes sense. I've never been a free to play player, so to speak, so I don't know much about the experience. But judging from online discussions and actual data, ZZZ is actually on the generous side of Hoyo gacha games. Do what you will with that information. Just know that spending money is made to be very enticing. Okay, this very strange gacha system There are three tiers of items you can gamble for: B ranks, A ranks, and S ranks. An S rank has a 0.6% chance of pulling, and A rank has a 9.4% chance of pulling. S rank limited agents are obtained through time-limited signal search banners. These banners are only available for a set period of time and feature one specific S rank agent with increased odds. You are guaranteed at least one A rank item or agent every 10 pulls. If you do not obtain an S rank agent, the game guarantees one within 90 pulls. After 75 pulls, the odds of an S rank will increase to 1.6% and an A rank to 14.4%. Once an S rank is obtained, there's a 50% chance it is the featured limited agent. If the featured agent is not obtained, the next S rank is guaranteed to be the featured agent. This is a super simplified version of how it works, but explaining it in depth genuinely gives me a headache. MiHoYo has made it this way because it makes it harder for you to deduce how many pulls you'll need for a limited S rank agent, as well as how much you'll be overspending by. MiHoYo isn't hiding anything, but given that the rules of the gacha are really, really long, they might as well be. On top of the fact that you never know when an agent is returning after the radar banner leaves, simply just adds to the game's FOMO factor. MiHoYo makes money from people wanting these characters. Their main source of revenue is not from skins, unlike other games. Or there are skins, but yeah. If that much wasn't already clear, I've never agreed with the system of locking agents behind limited banners, but then again, nobody has. With that being said, do not spend your money on gacha games. It's not worth it. I mentioned that I spend on Zenless on Zero, but that doesn't mean you should. Firstly, what you put is simply not worth what you get out, even if you do buy the best deals, like I do. So, does that indirectly make the free-to-play experience better? Maybe. No. And even if you do choose to spend money on gacha games in general, just know that you're essentially feeding into your latent gambling addiction. You might be like me, where you know you're directly supporting a company that's fundamentally greedy, but you choose to not care. I mentioned this thing earlier called the fear of missing out, but what exactly does it mean? In the context of ZZZ, it mainly comes in the form of believing that you're missing out if you're not doing your daily tasks, or when a meta character debuts. The community, and when I say the community, I mean the people playing ZZZ in general, really, really like to hype up new meta agents, which indirectly puts pressure on the individuals who weren't even planning to pull for meta agents in the first place. The term must pull is thrown around way too often. A must pull would imply that the game is unplayable without the agent. It's literally in the name. Sure, the agent might single-handedly boost your account from getting 9 stars or 6 to 9 stars, but it doesn't make them mandatory. I have the agents Trigger and Jifufu, which for simplicity's sake fills in the niche of supporting my DPS agents. A new agent came out in patch 2.4 called Dial-In, who does everything Jifufu and Trigger does, but objectively better. Now, the thing is, I'm already comfortably clearing with Jifufu and Trigger. I don't even like Dial-In. But to hear people, oh, I don't like Dial-In because he's mean to Banyu. Now, saying people that Dial-In is a quote-unquote must-pull, this really throws me off. Now, in saying that, Dial-In, gameplay-wise, is awesome, at least in terms of strength. If you're a newer player and have no idea what your account needs, that's fine. Just don't feel enticed to pull for agents like Dylan, especially if you're like me, who doesn't even need Dylan in order to clear comfortably. There are two main sources of gens in the endgame: Shiyu Defense and Deadly Assault. These game modes are essentially DPS checks, ensuring that your agents are properly built, as well as subtly encouraging the player to go pull that new agent. Although it's not inherently a bad thing, Shiyu Defense wants to have you have two different teams, meaning it wants you to have six properly built agents that synergize with each other. There are two floors with mobs you must clear. in a time frame speed across 5 minutes in order to get the rewards. You can take a little longer, but then you'll be missing out on gems. Daily Assault also wants you to have 6 agents. However, it's a little bit different. As well as generally being harder than Shield Defense, Daily Assault features 3 bosses that each give you 3 stars. You only need 6 stars to get all the gem rewards. You must deal enough damage to the boss within 3 minutes to get 3 stars on the boss. And in an ideal world, you will have 3 fully built teams, 1 team for each boss, allowing you to claim all the rewards. These game mode rewards reset every 2 weeks, which encourages you to come back to the game to clear them. The community is fine for the most part. I've seen the ZZZ community being labeled as chill. Do what you will with that info. There are weirdos in the community. You know what I mean when I say weirdos. I would advise you to just stay away from them both online and in real life. To conclude, the game is good enough for me to play. Just play the game if you want. You should never feel forced to play a gacha game simply because of FOMO. If anyone's asking you to play the game because it's more free to play friendly, or the combat's really fun, you should generally not listen to that. The people who say that don't really know what they're saying. And I apologize if I sounded too aggressive or mean in any way in the video. I don't mean to be a bully. Again, this is my first time attempting to make a video, so feedback would be greatly appreciated. If you actually watch the full 20-minute video, also, you've made me a really happy guy. But otherwise, that's all. Bye.